You will find the spirit of Caesar in the soul of a woman. These words were spoken by one of the most significant artists of the Italian Baroque, Artemisia Gentileschi. Artemisia painted powerful female heroines who command the viewer's attention with their piercing assuredness, rebelliousness, and bravery. In the artist's most celebrated work, two young women brutally severed the head of their city's enemy, slaughtering him with purpose and unflinching resolve. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm really excited to talk to you about a painting by the renowned Artemisia Gentileschi. Her art just demands to be talked about. Artemisia's paintings feature charismatic female protagonists who have shocked, inspired and captivated viewers since their conception. Judith and Holofernes remains one of her most affecting creations, and I can't wait to explore it with you. Let's dive right in. The first thing that strikes me about this painting is how intensely graphic, real and visceral it is. Two women are depicted mid-action as they ruthlessly slaughter a man. It is a terrifically violent painting. Both women bear expressions of determination and fierce decisiveness, which makes you immediately question their motivation and the story behind this brutal murder. What on earth prompted these two women to enact such a crime with such resolution? Well, as always, let's begin with the subject matter. This painting depicts the biblical story of Judith and Holofernes that is recounted in the Catholic version of the Old Testament in the book of Judith. Judith was a beautiful widow whose city, the Jewish city of Bethulia, was under attack by the Assyrian army led by the ruthless general Holofernes. In order to save her people, Judith devised a plan. Dressed in her best garments, Judith entered the enemy's camp, pretending to be a traitor wanting to help the general. Holofernes was struck by her beauty. He asked her to dine with him in the hopes of later seducing her. When he later took her back to his private tent, Judith made sure he drank substantially. When he passed out, Judith took his sword and plunged it into his neck, thereby saving her people. She and her maidservant Abra, who was present at the scene, placed the general's severed head in a sack and returned victorious to Bethulia. This biblical story was very popular during the Italian Renaissance and Baroque. It was painted many times by many artists. But Artemisia's version is unprecedented in its violence and in its realism. While other artists before her usually chose to depict the moment after the beheading, Artemisia chose to follow the revolutionary composition of Caravaggio, who depicts Judith in the very act of beheading. Caravaggio's compositional and stylistic influence on Artemisia is undoubtable. He was actually good friends with Artemisia's father, who was also a painter, so he was somebody that Artemisia knew and looked up to. However, at the same time, there are noticeable and very significant differences between the two. In Artemisia's painting, Judith is commanding the scene in every sense of the word. Notice that she has rolled up her sleeves. I think this is such an important detail which really gives you a sense of her mindset. She is ready to get her hands dirty, literally. Moreover, rather than depicting an old, impassive woman as Judith's maidservant, Artemisia shows two young, powerful women working in tandem as they overcome their male oppressor. So in Artemisia's painting, Abra is Judith's accomplice. She straddles Holofernes, pinning him down with the weight of her entire body. Artemisia's painting is also far more savage and gritty. Look at the attention Artemisia has given to the rendering of blood. First of all, there is a lot of it. Secondly, look how it stains the canvas in different ways. She has painted both delicate sprays and drops of blood, as well as rivers of blood that cascade onto the white bed sheets. Artemisia's rendering of the spurting blood is realistic and convincing. It's very possible that she was aware of the work of her very good friend Galileo Galilei on parabolic trajectories. This is actually Artemisia's second rendition or variation of this scene. The first was done in around 1611 while she was in Rome. In comparing both paintings, you will notice how Artemisia modified certain aspects in order to render the narrative much more grisly and impacting. In the second, the lighting is more dramatic, the fabrics are much more sumptuous, and the sword is placed much more vertically. In short, everything feels intensified. These minor but incredibly significant tweaks highlight Artemisia's growing technical skill and her deep understanding of how certain poses and arrangements can ignite one's visual storytelling. In addition, in this second variation, you can feel the force and effort that these two women are exerting in their savage slaughter. Abra's body, Holofernes' arm, and Judith's sword all run down the very center of the canvas, and this strong vertical thrust creates an overwhelming sense of force that lands directly on Holofernes' neck. Moreover, all the diagonals of the figure's limbs converge onto Judith's fist and Holofernes' severed head. Both of the women's arms are fully extended as they press down onto Holofernes. His limbs, on the other hand, are all bent. This highlights his vulnerability and their dominance. Judith's right knee pushes down on his chest. She has a strong grip on his beard and hair as she keeps his head down, forcing it into an awkward position which foreshadows its very imminent dismemberment. Her wrist creases because of the force she is exerting. Holofernes is trying to fight back as best as he can in his drunken state. His clenched fist and his wide eyes suggest that he is aware of his horrible fate. Look at the size of his fist in comparison to Abra's head. Again, this is part of Artemisia's strategic storytelling. It suggests that despite Holofernes' immense strength, he is nevertheless being overpowered and defeated by the two women because of their strength and determination. The figures are bathed in a hellish light and they emerge from a strikingly dark background. This tenebrism really heightens the atmosphere. The entire focus is on the figures and the gruesome act of slaughter, and that's it. The rest of the canvas is dominated by darkness. Artemisia has brought a uniquely feminine perspective to the story, as she does in the rest of her artistic work. Looking at this painting, you really get the sense that Artemisia has thought deeply about the story, as well as the characters' feelings and motivations which governed their act. What's interesting is that the figures are dressed in what was contemporary 17th century clothing. So Artemisia was bringing this biblical story to life. She transposed it to fit her current time, making it incredibly relevant, accessible, and by extension, affecting. The raw force behind the women's expressions and poses has prompted art historians to read this painting in light of Artemisia's own life. In 1611, at the age of 17, Artemisia was raped by a very close friend of her father's who was hired to teach her, Agostino Tassi. When Tassi failed to marry her as he had promised her in line with social dictates, Artemisia's father took him to court in March of 1612, about 9 months after the incident, and a lengthy trial ensued. During the trial, Artemisia explained everything in great detail, including how she tried to fight back with a knife. Things weren't so simple, however, as Artemisia and Tassi continued to have sexual relations after the assault. In the end, Tassi was sentenced but managed to avoid punishment because of his connection to Pope Paul V. Now, since Artemisia's recent scholarly rediscovery and reappreciation, her art, and in particular this painting, have come to be defined by that very traumatic experience. It has been argued that because of the rape, Artemisia was able to relate to the protagonist Judith in a way that no artist before her had been able to. Artemisia actually painted the first variation of this subject at the time of her trial, which only fuels this interpretation. It has been argued that Holofernes is meant to symbolize Tassi, that Judith resembles Artemisia, and that the maidservant represents Artemisia's chaperone, who was present at the scene of her rape, but was too afraid to do anything to help. Artemisia's depiction of the maidservant in the painting has thereby been read as Artemisia empowering her chaperone, even if only through the medium of paint. It has also been noted that the cameo on Judith's bracelet, featuring the goddess Artemis, who is Artemisia's namesake, suggests that she wanted the viewer to identify Judith as herself. Essentially, this painting has been read as Artemisia's painterly revenge on Tassi, which she wasn't able to get in real life. While I believe that this biographical interpretation is indeed valid, I think that in order to truly understand this painting, we also have to look beyond Artemisia's traumatic experience. We have to consider this painting as the work of a female artist wanting to make her mark in a male-dominated field. And we have to look at this painting as the work of a strong-willed artist working in the height of the Counter-Reformation and the dramatic, affecting and inspiring art that the Catholic Church was asking artists to produce in order to counter Protestant criticism. All of these factors played equally significant roles in the making of this very powerful visual narrative. Artemisia did use herself as a model for Judith, but she did this in many of her other paintings, likely because it was more convenient and less costly than procuring models. It also allowed Artemisia to promote the image of herself as an artist through her paintings. So we should be careful not to undermine the fact that Artemisia was also simply a wonderful storyteller who knew very well how to adapt to the demands and needs of her patrons. I believe that while her life story might very well play a part in the rendering of her paintings, it does not define them. She was a really good artist who created paintings featuring strong protagonists who just happened to be women. This painting is gruesome, gory, and affecting, and it originally did not sit too well with everybody. Upon its arrival in Florence, it was not allowed to be exhibited in the Uffizi Gallery, and Artemisia only managed to receive payment for this painting from the commissioner Cosimo II de' Medici thanks to the help of her friend Galileo Galilei. Nevertheless, Artemisia certainly succeeded in making her mark during her lifetime. In 1616, she became the first female artist ever to be accepted into the renowned Florence Academy of the Arts of Drawing. She also worked extensively in a variety of cities, including Florence, Rome, Genoa, and Naples. Her paintings were collected by Philip IV of Spain and Charles I of England. In short, she became a very big name during the 17th century. She was different because of the subject matter that she tackled and how she tackled it. Rather than depicting still lives and portraits like most female artists of the time, she painted historic paintings featuring legendary heroines, and this allowed her to compete with her male contemporaries. She embraced and mastered the technicalities of her field and imbued her characters with a uniquely powerful feminine perspective that was lacking in the art world. Artemisia made this painting so much more than the biblical story. She has created a timeless piece of storytelling that can stand on its own as an expression of passion and strength. Alright everyone, that is everything for this week's vlog. I really hope you enjoyed learning about Artemisia. If you learned something new today, give this video a big like and share it with a friend. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, as well as what work of art you would love to learn about next. For those of you on Instagram, go ahead and tag me in a story featuring your favorite work by Artemisia. As always, thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.